Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to the session on tips and tools for remote work, effective remote work. I have Joydeep Mandal with me. Joydeep is an architect. He worked in corporate real estate for a few years before chasing his dream of travel. So initially, he started traveling over weekends. He started a travel page called The Moon Chasers with his partner Chandrai, uh, and now he has transformed into a full-time remote worker. So he has seen both the sides of the game, right? He has seen the corporate life, he has seen the full remote life, the part remote life. So he'll be adding a lot of value about how to work remotely. He'll be sharing his story about how he learned remote work on the way. Uh, so off to you, Joydeep. Can you give us a quick introduction?
Hi, Mayur. For good afternoon, guys. Firstly, thank you for having me at the Global Travel Meet and share my experiences about traveling and working remotely while traveling. So to quickly initiate the session, I am Joydeep. I'm an architect by profession and have been working in the real estate sector. Uh, my work, apart from design conceptualization, has been in interactive design and working both at the physical as well as the digital world, creating a digital environment as well. These comprises mostly about the upcoming technologies that we have been learning about in terms of augmentation, virtual reality, and also taking that experience somehow into physical build spaces that we create. Apart from that, I have been passionate about traveling, and thankfully, in the last 4 years, we have traveled throughout India and a few other countries to chase that dream and try and manage both my architectural work as well as create new experiences on the go. And that's where this session comes from, to take some insights from those learnings as to how those things were possible together, and getting those spaces to work remotely, getting the technology to work remotely, and how those things came together to create both of these platforms of success, working in a corporate as well as traveling remotely and working from there. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I'm curious, how did the transformation happen? What was the driver behind you deciding to first work remotely part time over the weekends or long weekends? How did it happen? I know that your passion is traveling, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious about how did you manage
Yeah.
the first transformation?
Yeah, so to immediately address that, Mayur, you have to understand, like, once you start traveling and chasing that dream, there are these logistical challenges that you face on the go. And suppose you are trying to attend a conference call while you are in the hills and there's no network zone. And these small logistical challenges are the first roadblock that you start addressing. And then you start putting a structure to it, putting more of a format to it, that when you're traveling, what are the things that you can address while traveling, and how much flexible those time limits can be, and when is it that you actually need a structured space which has Wi-Fi connectivity so that you can do your conference calls, so on and so forth. So it has been certain learnings which enabled us to structure these processes as to the immediate needs, the kind of team building exercises that you have to do, and so that everybody is aligned to the kind of deliverables or the kind of goals that everybody as a team is set out to achieve. And then how you task manage all of them while you are still traveling, so that you are not just bogged down by the basic facts of managing those tasks happening as per time, but you still get that space for yourself to explore things that you are trying to do. Uh, as and through this talk, we will elaborate on those touch key points as to what exactly helped me benefit from them. But overall, if I have to say, it's to chase that flexible lifestyle, to chase the aspiration to do something much more out of the day, and bucket your daily targets so that you are aware of your goals and you can progress to the larger vision of what you are trying to do slowly and steadily. Yeah.
Cool. So another point here is, uh, so today when we talk about remote work, or rather pre-pandemic, when we talked about remote workers or digital nomads, they were mostly, uh, you know, the proportion was skewed mostly towards the tech side,
Mm,
developers,
mm.
designers, and social media marketers and stuff. So, as an architect, how is it to be a remote worker? Have you met any other architects doing this?
To address that question, I would not just keep it to the architect realm. I would keep it to all creative people because somewhere I believe all of us will face the same challenges and we have had the same learnings. People working in a creative field, be it a product designer, be it an architect, be it a graphic designer, so on and so forth. So what we have to understand today is we are limited to working mostly on a digital world. We are limited to working on our screens. We might choose to work physically as well, but in terms of the output that we are desiring, more often than not, it's the computer that aids us, and computer aided design has taken over. Right. So in that realm, it has been easy to communicate through different softwares that have evolved over the time, and designing and drawing is not just an expression of your head. It is something that you can put forth on computer aided design or a 3D software, or even to the extent of coding it into a third dimensional geometry is possible today. And that is where my experience of virtual world has helped me communicate that part of design. For instance, I have been working with a lot of virtual reality, which for our viewers is to map a third dimensional environment in a complete 360-degree environment, and as realism as you can get it, so that the nature sounds or even nitty-gritties of things that you have to add are so realistic that you immerse the user in that environment. And things like those have been effective, tools like these have been effective in conveying the thought, conveying the design to the end user, or even collaborating. Like instance, we have instances of products like the Microsoft HoloLens, that is a product coming in the upcoming market where you can augment your designs over an existing product or even a prototype, so much so that you can tweak and tinker around those media while remotely, like a cloud-based platform, while your designs can be accessed by somebody else and evaluated or reviewed and experienced to the finer detail. So these technologies have been really helpful in me communicating my designs to my team or my thoughts to the other stakeholders that are working on that same project.
That's great. Technology is everywhere nowadays, and we are, most of the tasks cannot be done without some bits of
Yeah,
technology,
yeah,
especially in the world of knowledge workers.
yeah.
So, apart from the specialized tools that you use for your design and architecture purposes, are there any specific common tools that you use to communicate with your teams and to stay productive?
Uh, to elaborate on that, I would like to quickly pull out certain slides that I have created just to elaborate on when we talk about remote working, it can be structured into different format. And today, when we work from home scenario, given the current situation where people are stuck at home due to the pandemic. But it has been a conversation that has happened for the last few years, where digital nomads, as you rightly mentioned, were the forerunners in getting the concept into the mainstream and creating that trend. Whereas today, there we can broadly classify it like people who are remotely working into three buckets, if I have to address it. One, of course, being the digital nomads. Second are the more prevalent work from home category, where people are refined and confined to their home spaces or a space from where they can work effectively. And third are willing entrepreneurs. And that might have been an outcome of the current market scenario. Or however, there is a lot of people who are jumping the boat ship and getting onto an entrepreneurial role and trying to work on a freelance basis, because that is another aspect of remote working where you're more flexible, where you're more confident beyond the things that you can actually do or you are doing on a daily basis, and want to chase your dream to do that extra. So these are the three categories of people today that we can address when we are talking about remote working. And in lieu of the same, okay, so let me just pull out the slides.
Yeah. So until then, let's talk about the categories. Oh, your slides are out there. So
Wait,
yeah.
I'll just, yeah, one sec. Yeah, you were saying something, Mayur. Sorry.
So I was saying, I agree with the categories that you defined. There are people who are working from home, and who will continue to work from home for whatever reasons.
Hmm.
It could be about family, or it could be about having a house in a place where you are paying the EMI, and you can't really move out. Then digital nomads. I've been a digital nomad since
Yeah.
2015, and then there are freelancers and remote entrepreneurs. So I'm sure some of the audience members are part of one of these categories
Yes.
at least.
Totally. Yeah.
And especially now with the pandemic, everybody is a remote worker, right?
Yeah. So, can you see my screen, Mayur?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. So, yeah, addressing when we talk about remote working today, it's mostly about working from anywhere. So if in today's concept, when we address this topic, it has to be home, irrespective of home or a cafe or anything. These certain things that we have adapted to as part of the pandemic, which we were trying to explore before or trying to mobilize for, has become the norm of the day today. Moving on, so why work remotely? When people try to elaborate as to why or justify as to why people should, there are three or four key points that we mostly come across, which, if you look at this, better work life balance, cost savings as the biggest factor, uh, to chase personal responsibilities or to aspirations, and to reduce the carbon footprint. When in a latest survey that was conducted, when people were asked why would they like to remote work, it was said the biggest factor for people to choose remote working was flexible schedule. And this has a direct impact with the digital nomads, and people like the digital nomads kind of conceptualize this thought that people can work from anywhere, chasing any dream that they aspire to. And that is the luxury of life. That is where the work life balance or the happiness in work comes from. A substantial percentage want prefer to work remotely because of working from the ease of working from any location, whereas a certain category felt time with family and no commute comprise the majority of the reason why they wanted to work from anywhere. So when we talk about where working remotely, where would people like to work from? Whereas 95% again said that they would like to work from home, people would love to work from any other location like a coffee shop or airports if they're traveling, a co working space, during commute, hotels, and other spaces. But why is this so? And how can we achieve doing this with the kind of tools we get and we have at our disposal? So, in a survey that was conducted, people relied mostly on email and instant messaging for doing their daily job, most of their professional job that they were doing in offices. The other digital media, like a cell phone or cloud working, creating an effective digital space, being able to communicate with your peers, became other key components of how you can remote work. So, Mayur, when I was referring to the facts and the learnings that we were getting while we were traveling and while we were trying to structure our mode of travel, these are the kind of learnings we started having. These are the kind of pointers we started bifurcating those challenges into so that we can mitigate those. And if you really move forward on that list, to understand the market today, which has adapted to the philosophy of remote working way better than that was yesterday when we were trying to make it into a trend, when it was more of getting your ancillary goals apart from your daily job. Today, most companies are looking at remote work being the new norm tomorrow. And this has multitude of factors in it, even from the enterprise or the organizational level. So the main factor being reduction of overheads, reduction of costs. A lot of companies which were restricted to IT and finance, and a lot of other companies now have realized that reducing commercial assets to create office spaces or office desks can help them localize or channelize those assets into the betterment of their workforce. So it is again a discussion or a trade-off between having office spaces or valuable assets which are the workforce themselves. And this is a shift that we are going towards. And some of these companies are actually being pioneers in creating a structure for these transformations to happen. How can people work remotely? Because at the end of the day, in the last 5 months, what people have quickly realized is it's about keeping people lured to that one screen. It is keeping people engaged on a digital platform to consider that as your digital workspace. Because no longer can people just look at a colleague and wink at them and convey a lot of messages in it. Now, the only medium is to have a conversation direct, face to face, on a digital conference or a Teams platform, and so on and so forth. So, building a remote work strategy will really help people be more engaged towards sticking to the laptop or a screen or a digital screen throughout the day, because that is one of the key tools of remote working. So, how do we build the remote strategy? A certain percentage of people felt that companies need to start becoming more agile. People have to start understanding it's not about the end deliverable that the organization should look for, but it's also about how the journey to that deliverable has been and what people have gained in between. uh, a biggest component to make this change happen has been a proper alignment between IT and HR, because these are the two tools which can manage. So if you have to break it down, while physical workspaces were more about people and how people were managed, digital workspaces are making that interface in a digital environment. So that this has to be the biggest force to enable that change. And to establish that, you need to have clear guidelines. Like what we have felt, and if there is a gray area in the delivery or the kind of work that you are committing to, that creates the confusion, not just in terms of the effort that is placed in that work, but also the end result that is being delivered. Uh, it has to be set into clear goals that you are trying to address, clear end results that you are committing on, and a clear timeline as to what you are adhering, so that you are not pushed into working over hours because you're working from home or any other place throughout the day and you're accessible to your tools of work. And of course, this is something that the companies are working in the last couple of sectors, is to have a business continuity plan, because small enterprises, because of such ups and downs in the workflow, when people are working from their home with multiple contingency plans happening, the business continuity needs to adapt to certain of these changes in the market, and yet keep the goals and visions of the business together and on the same path as they had provision for earlier in the year. Okay, moving on, we would come to how this creates that change in people choosing working remotely. But it also has to come with a certain agility, as I was saying. Like we have all come across this case where somebody's kid or somebody's people at home, peers, are walking into a conference. And these are things that we have now become sensitive to. Companies are allowing people to have their kids in a conference if that need be, to take a break, to go and attend to the ailing father or somebody that needs medical attention, and take care of your personal responsibilities. And that's where I guess the success of remote work is directly linked to. Okay, so this let's pause at this, Mayur. I believe in terms of remote work, we have all had a situation like this. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I started working remotely back in 2014 before Geo came into play.
Yeah.
So when I talk about remote work in India, I look at it in terms of pre-Geo, post-Geo, and post-pandemic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because back then when I started traveling, I found places where there was no internet.
Yeah.
The power used to go for a day, and I could not really manage my work back in 2015.
Yeah.
Uh,
So this is, yeah. Sorry, Mayur.
so I think now we have all the tools available, technology available. The internet has gotten much better over past 5 6 years. uh, the power situation has gotten better. So I think now we are in time where remote work can be a really the next
Success
evolution.
story. Yeah. But there are, so why I paused at this image is something, this is something I believe we have all faced in the last a few months, that we have been working remotely or from home. And somewhere or the other, it's the IT need that has raised an eyebrow, and we are clueless as to how to solve it or mitigate it. Uh, but that is something that enterprises and organizations are really working on, and that is something that people are addressing to address certain other issues that can be mitigated by having a robust IT network. So challenges that remote workers may face mostly are fear of missing out, because you're working mostly out of isolation, and you're working remotely where you're your own reviewer, critique, however you have to call it. So it's you and your work that isolates you from the rest of the world, and you're just stuck on that one screen. Unnecessary complexity. As I was mentioning, IT complexities that we all bump into, and the feeling to be always on, because you're always working throughout the day without taking that much needed break that you would like to take. But how do we mitigate these challenges? How do we ensure that we are working remotely with the tools that we have, and yet not let these challenges bog us down and be hindrances to our workflow? First and foremost, what we have realized, and traveling, this is a key tool, is to communicate. It's quite possible to be away from a network zone for a while. It's quite possible that that our team cannot reach us when they need us immediately, but to have a channel of communication open, maybe drop a text so that you can call back, or so on and so forth. And the oftener you connect, and the often you communicate with them about clear deliverables, clear goals, work that is happening, emphasize on repeated tasks that you are doing. Because for people that are working in organizations or corporate level where there is an hierarchy and you're reporting to someone, communicating often and often is the need of the hour, because people are always busy with their cloud and bubble of things that they have to do. So whereas at work you would just exchange these kind of conversations over a cup of coffee, that doesn't happen when you're working remotely. So you have to insist on communicating your daily tasks, and having a clear daily activity report, or however you put it, as a tracker, so that people are aware of the task that's happening and have a clear mapping of your goals. Of course, remote working has to have a certain level of trust and transparency. You have to, like, there are companies that have reported monitoring to the level of putting a camera in the face of their employees initially as part of remote work when COVID hit. But I don't think that's the way we should look at it. I believe there should be a level of trust, and there are systems that map trust even through data. So if companies have to be that stringent and map trust onto numbers, there are applications or softwares that can enable that. But there has to be that level of transparency with your employees and with everybody around, so that people are willing to work and sit in front of that laptop throughout the day and facilitate work.
So, Joydeep, I
Yeah,
would like to add something about the first 2 points, if you can
yeah.
take
Just
back
pull
to
back.
the
Yeah,
slide. Yeah. So, I think both are interrelated, because when you communicate well, when you communicate transparency, you build trust, right?
yeah.
And that's what I have seen over past 6 years of working remotely, building and managing teams. That the more, or rather, the clearer you communicate, the better the workflow is. The
Becomes, yeah.
better, yeah, better the remote work becomes. So yeah, you can share your.
Yeah, so on similar lines, I mean, at the end of the day, remote working, I have been grateful to have been working with a team while I was traveling and managing my work remotely, to believe and give me that flexibility to understand that it's not a all or nothing. There is a learning in every failure as well. Maybe certain end goals were not as we anticipated. Maybe certain uh, results were not as we desired, but what we learned helped us become robust as a team, helped us pull off things that we didn't even expect in the future. So all of this are a team building exercise as well. I mean, traveling through this journey of working remotely is not just for the employees but also for the employers, because the whole team learns together and benefits out of it. I would highlight on this slide the factor which is digital wellness. So while we are all working remotely right now, something that is popping up more often is the need to seek digital wellness, the need for therapy after continuously sitting in front of the screen for, say, the whole week. And for people who cannot detach themselves for even an hour, it's becoming really stressful and taking a toll on even family ties, so on and so forth. So digital wellness is really required for every individual to work, and a detox from the screen you are staring into is a key to being more productive and spending more fruitful hours rather than just staring in front of your screen. Uh, Okay, let's quickly move to how IT and the tech that we are talking about, and I'll try to address the question that you initially asked as to how different companies are or different apps are trying to mitigate the remote working challenges. So today, Mayur, if correct me if I'm wrong, we are mostly connected on web. We are no longer carrying our hard disks with us, or huge data backups with us unless necessary. So that is a key factor where most of remote working has been eased for all of us, and what has enabled us to travel and yet work. There are a few things that companies and enterprises have realized during the last few months, which is to have a virtual private network, things we were not recognizing before. Like if you have to enable people to access your key cloud storage data, which were initially like earlier routed through your servers, you need a virtual private network. And things like these that people were discussing earlier before the pandemic struck has been easier to make that shift. So people have been able, like there are a lot of enterprises who have made that shift because we were already exploring those grounds. We were exploring to make people not carry their laptops everywhere, to have all the data accessible from any device that they can work on. Right. So that is something that has helped move us forward. Also, something that the IT sector has factored in is continuously connected. All your devices are connected today. Your laptop, your mobile phone, your home, like home theater system, everything is connected on your cloud based, and you can cast your data to any screen that you can. And that has been the biggest success. Also, some certain other things that key IT companies, like this again varies from the scale of your company, from smaller enterprises to larger organizations who have huge IT loads on them, can factor in. So like a lot of companies have moved towards automated environments where your basic requirements or basic tools of access control and other automatic things like those are automated. And there are chatbots who are reaching out to the employees before somebody actually has to pick up the phone and mitigate that challenge. So, if you are working on different of these portals, it always presents a sense of somebody is there to hear your problem. Like referring back to the initial slide where the person was not guided enough to understand what backup means, somebody as a chatbot can break down even the trivial of things and be a person that can guide you through the steps. There are different micro apps who have simplified this process. So while booting, while a computer crashed seemed an alien thing to do for say somebody not related to a techie background, now will not find it so abnormal because there are simple steps and simple apps that can take on those roles. Uh, Mixed reality in the sense of the collaboration that I was talking in, different sort of realms coming together where data and visualization can be both made interactive and people can immerse themselves in that environment rather than just being it's almost to the level of Marvel and the universe of Marvel that Marvel created, and we are Iron Man today. We can actually immerse ourselves in designs, in numbers, and create an environment around us. So remote working has become easy because of these tools. And somewhere because we are making these environments safe, because the virtual private network is enabling enterprises to rely on such tools, it's becoming a boon for people to work out of their kitchen desks, what we have been doing for the last few months. Overall, to summarize what IT has been dealing with in the last few months, and how remote working has been enabled for people more towards an IT background, is to automate and to be more proactive rather than be reactive to contingencies or emergencies that arise, so that there is certain automated responses that the customer can avail to, and it doesn't always have to be a service based or a app based solution. uh, for when it comes to personal remote working, like, these are certain things that all of us have to be conducive of, in sense of mobile hotspots, remote desktop softwares, team chat apps, screen sharing softwares when you quickly need to share your screen and show certain data to your team or your in your conference, screen recording, video conferencing apps, cloud storage. But most important are the ones that I would like to highlight are the ones below, which are to manage your own workflow, because that's where we tend to falter. That's where we tend to forget and keep focusing more on the work to be done rather than how many and at what time. So a project management software, things to put your to-do list, like the ones that I mentioned on the left, Slack, Trello, Envision. These are really good apps, like a few of those, which enable people to map their daily tasks, assign tasks to people of their team, and manage a timeline for those work to be done, so that we are aware what work is being done and be sensitive towards our team as to if somebody has a ailing mother. Yes, we do allow that sort of stability and leniency towards it. uh, okay, next is something, Mayur, I believe you are uh, really versed with and you manage it successfully, is about co-working. So next, what I would like to address is the spaces that remote has helped me work remotely, and certain spaces that helped me mitigate the problems initially when remote working was just a concept that had come into the market and was helping me work on my weekend travels. So co-working, again, as a concept, as we all know, has been in the industry for a while, and it dates back to the first hacker spaces that we had before, and to Berlin and the first sea-based space that we knew, till like 2005 and the latest decade, where it has seen a boom in the co-working industry. But I'll ignore the history of it, but quickly come to why co-working spaces attract us today. So if I look at this space, this is an amazing co-working space in Canada. But let's take a moment to just look at the ceiling and see how grand architecturally this space is. So remote working has been facilitated by these spaces, which has addressed not just to create a architectural vibrant space for nomadic people to come and work together, but has given the assets and the other amenities that are required to work together. Uh, some attract by virtue of the grandeur that they present, like this one. Uh, some others have a different franchisee model. Like, this itself multiplies because not just of its grandeur, but also the coffee that it delivers. And it's a very, very renowned cafe. And it's a chain, and people go there to have their meetings, not just to have a vibrant space, but to relish a cup of coffee. Similarly, earlier yesterday we had the director of this place, Hubud in Bali, which is an amazing co-working space. And who wouldn't, in a tropical vibe like Bali, if you get a place which facilitates Wi-Fi facility, giving you a private booth for your Skype call, so that you have that privacy, and yet allow you to work with a beach view in front of you. Why not? Also, certain other kind of clientele is what enforces certain livery to come to life in certain co-working spaces. Like this one in California is renowned for having posh, niche, elite conversions, and to attract a clientele of that genre. Some co-working spaces have come up with messages like this co-working space in Toronto is an all-women co-working space. So while it creates employment opportunities for people or other opportunities for people seeking an environment like this, it also provides a collaborative effort for women and other people who are thinking or discussing on similar thoughts. So you interact with like-minded people, because what brings these spaces to life is the people or the collaborative attitude of remote working that co-working spaces imbibe. And often than not, there are people from different genre or different professions that come together and mitigate a solution that had left you clueless. So Mayur, why I wanted to elaborate on the co-working spaces is for two party, not just of the spaces and in terms of an architectural space, but also as a culture. And I believe this culture is something that remote working will benefit in years to come. The collaborative effort of even being together over a digital media or a digital workspace and coming together as a team, and a set of professionals trying to harp on each other's talents and trying to build something new is the remote working philosophy that I believe will help all of us and try and mitigate the challenges that we have. Yeah, Mayur.
Yeah, definitely. So as I understand, from your beautiful presentation with lots of data, uh, the first part about, keeping yourself productive or effective while working remotely is the IT tools that you use, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because those are the ones who help you get things done.
yeah,
But the whole essence of office is to have people around you who you can interact with, and I think co-working spaces or co-living spaces facilitate that part, because even if you have all the IT tools in the world, at the end of the day you need human connection, uh,
yeah.
to to keep you focused towards your goal and to get things done.
But Mayur, I would also like to highlight that with the current pandemic, maybe there will be a shift in the way we approach human presence and how we are comfortable in working in co-working spaces tomorrow, and not just in terms of safety, because everybody will like the spaces will themselves adhere to safety guidelines and people will be adhering to safety guidelines, but also because of the ease that we have had with digital media, with the ease we have had talking to Alexa, the ease we have had talking to Siri, and relying on such chatbots. So, to a certain extent, people will be relying and considering a Siri or an Alexa or a Bixby as a pseudo human as well. And they can facilitate. I mean, if I ask Siri to make a call to somebody that I want to, these are tools of facilitating. So the way we perceive a human connect in a digital world will change post pandemic.
uh, I would have a different point of view on
Of
this,
course. Yeah.
uh, because I feel that now that people are stuck at home with kids around, trying to juggle work and family life all together, I feel that there is this innate need to go out, meet new people, meet strangers, talk about
Yeah.
stories, hear somebody else's stories. And I think the technology, whatever technology we have, it's an enabler towards that, but it cannot
True.
replace.
Substituted. True. Totally. Totally.
Yeah. So, we have talked about tools, we have talked about physical spaces, communities that help you, work remotely effectively. I am curious about how remote work has shaped you as a person, over the years.
Um, okay, I'll stop the slide for now. Yeah. So, traveling in itself liberates a human being, is what I believe. And working remotely helps you connect and idolize a lot of other things that often you tend to forget because you are so working out of your own work bubble. You tend to work and romanticize. And for architects and designers, it's a common curse that we romanticize our designs so often, and we are so lost that we tend to forget there is a physical, realistic world outside. And traveling sometimes helps us do that. And traveling opens you up to other things happening, not just things or issues, I would say conversations or voices that need to be raised. There are smaller concerns that you as an architect or as a traveler can address and work with the with other people around you to create a more better vibrant surrounding or neighborhood. And for instance, there are these projects that happen around Maharashtra itself, which are called the watershed management programs, and they are key to manage irrigation and create a sustenance for the farmers. So as an architect today, if I'm traveling to a remote place and I see these initiatives happening, it is an eye opener. It does change the way you think about spaces, the way you always feel that architectural work or real estate work or things like these are only limited to cities, and growth of an architect is only limited to cities, and you cannot do things out in the open and for the local communities or the vernacular communities is wrong. So things like these learnings have helped me. Spaces that you create in collaboration with nature without ruining nature has shaped me. Things that you can create with vernacular medium in architecture have shaped me. So yeah, these are quite good learnings.
Wow. So it's great to hear, an architect talking about shaping things up, because you are the ones who shape buildings up, right? Or who shape the spaces that we stay in, we admire, and it's great to hear you about
Thank
how
you.
things shape up. Uh, so yeah, one point that you touched upon is the vernacular medium or the local population, and something around that.
Hmm.
So I believe that remote work is a great equalizer, because now everyone has access to internet.
Hmm.
Everyone is connected, and with work shifting outside urban areas and city centers, there is a great scope of spreading knowledge everywhere,
Yeah.
and let's hope that it happens. So uh, it's time to take some audience
Sure.
questions.
Sure.
uh,
Sure.
so Chandra is asking, what will be the top three reasons for people to continue remote working even after pandemic?
Well, I would go back on this note. I would like to go back to a few slides of my presentation towards the end, which I feel is relevant to everybody. Mm, yeah. Can you see the screen, Mayur? Again?
Oh yeah, I can see Maslow's pyramid.
Yeah, so this is the biggest reason for people to start remote working again and to reach the tip of the pyramid, which is self actualization. Because we have been able to mitigate some of the factors which comprise the base of that pyramid. And the way the world is adapting to technological interventions, I believe the way to go about it is to get to pursue your inner talent and to create and to have that fulfillment of your creativity. And I believe that is what should keep us working remotely and try and cater to what we want to achieve and what we want to aspire.
Yeah, the world is different now, like we have to start thinking about the world differently.
Yeah.
A lot of walls that were built around us have started falling,
Yeah.
and it's the time to look at life in a different way. And then there is a question from Pahul Tyagi. Your work is amazing, but I want to know uh, what your work fall under. Like which
Um,
category of architecture? Is it sustainable architecture or?
Well, I have been, in my experience of the last 6, 7 years, I have been working under different realms of architecture from very base, as I mentioned, from a digital environment to creating physical environments and trying to bridge both of them. This cannot be bucketed into only one stream of architecture. It has various streams involved. Like my work on Moon Chasers is more to do with interaction, filmmaking, creating that bridge of how you depict something, how you showcase something. Well, to again break it down, let's first understand when you design a building or when you design something versus, say, when you photograph the same building. These are two completely different stories, and they can be highlighted or narrated in two different complete ways. Similarly, the stream of architecture and the work that I have been doing can be bucketed into, say, interactive design, which contains the virtual reality, augmented reality, creation of animations, 3D environments, walkthroughs, so on and so forth, and physical reality, which is creating of spaces, vibrant spaces, or your hardcore architecture, so on and so forth. So, but again, a creative person cannot just bucket things. And that is where traveling has helped me bridge some of those gaps and understand how you can bridge those buckets, how you can address certain other fields in between. And it helps. So maybe we shouldn't bucket it at all.
Yeah, so I feel that there is a core trait that you are a creative person, and then everything else is branched out of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is one more question about from Aryaman. Do you think work from home should be implemented after the pandemic gets over?
Well, to be safe and secure, yes, because we are going through really tough situations, and it's wise to be safe and working from home. Because we have enabled tools which can manage everything around us. From an architect's perspective, I have to say, whereas data management and drawings management was a huge asset erstwhile, today we have softwares and applications like Aconex, which as an architect helps me data manage all my drawings on a cloud platform, and my contractors on site can access the same drawings, other consultants can access the same drawings, and there are set tasks on that portal, and which is enabling me working from home. So if there is a proper data management and workflow management system in place, I would say we should continue working from home even after the pandemic for a while, till it's safe again to commute on a regular basis. But if need be, so I again address these as contingency services. There will be certain industries where people will have to venture out. People will have to go to the offices and factor in for the 10% as of now, and maybe more tomorrow as we open up slowly. But to keep, again, since all of us are working out of the same cloud platform, and we are all accessing the same data from that cloud, it's wise to work from home if possible.
Yeah, and there are professions which don't have the liberty or privilege to be working from anywhere, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so those will have to continue to go to factories and
yeah.
go to farms to produce for us.
Hmm.
Uh, but I feel that now I think it's a pivotal time for the whole world. That okay, we always had those last 5 6 years. We had the tools available. Cloud computing was there.
Hmm.
All the communication tools were available. All the collaboration tools were available. And now is the time when the world has got a flavor of all of that.
Hmm.
So I think post pandemic, we'll see a new world shaping up with all these tools taking the center stage and giving people flexibility to work from anywhere.
Yeah, and I believe policies will be built around it. I mean, even organizations will adapt to policies that are around more technology being the backbone, more of collaboration being the backbone, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So one more question. I'm also part of audience. So one
Okay.
question.
Yeah. Yeah, Mayur.
Because you travel and work at the same time, how do you manage to stay disciplined? There are tools, there is everything else around, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's about prioritizing, right? So you're in a beautiful place and you have loads of work that day, and one part of your mind says that okay, let's go out, let's go on a trek, and the other part says okay, I have to finish this. So how do you manage the conflict between Joydeep 1 and Joydeep 2?
Okay, let's take it as a case example. So, I am a wildlife enthusiast and I really love going to the jungles. So, suppose I am traveling to, say, the jungles of Madhya Pradesh, and I have a stringent routine, because jungles are the most stringent in terms of routine when you're traveling, because you can only go to for the safari early morning or late evening. So take a case, one day case example. So my safari usually starts around 6:30 in the morning to track the wildlife and get as many good, awesome shots and experiences as I can. But for the next 5 hours, when I'm inside the jungle, I am totally focused on creating content from my travel platform, which is the Moon Chasers. And I am absorbing as much of the jungle as I can, wildlife, good if I can cite some. If not, it's the jungle that you absorb and you take lessons from. Once you are back from the safari and you're back to your hotel, you get, say you're back by 11:30. The safaris usually end by 10:30 or 11, and you're back to your resort or hotel by 11:30, or wherever you're working from. If you have a working space where you are staying, well and good, head there. If not, head to the nearest co-working that you have rented out or you have booked for the next few places, a few days, and you set up your workstation for the next few hours. Because somewhere, all of us, when we remote work, we know we have to keep certain regimes that we have. Like, this is my travel time, this is my work time, this is my lunch time, so on and so forth. So work till lunch, grab a quick meal at a co-working space, this while maybe networking with other peers that you have around you. Head for your safari after that. Come back in the evening, relax with the people while brainstorming, thinking on your design. Because see, at the end of the day, there are cues and inspirations you get from everywhere. Even if you are trying to crunch a complex equation as a physicist, you might just see something happening around you in nature and try and relate back, and that gives you that eureka moment, right? So it's keen to be observant. Nothing around you really slows you down in your workforce, as long as you know what time of the day you're working. And it's very important to take those breaks in between, because if you are always at scraping your head on that same thing, maybe yeah, that will not allow you to think as freely as you can. So keeping it regimented, keeping it stringent to the schedule that you're trying to follow for the next few days. For instance, if you have a long flight in between, you know you are not available for those few hours, so you inform your team that you won't be available, put it on your timer, and manage your daily schedule on an app, so that you know what is going to happen next. Even if you are traveling, you are driving, there's a reminder that pops up and you are aware, so that you can park your car and take a call if needed, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, so I spent 4 years traveling while working, and I cannot agree more.
Yeah.
Unless you really partition your work and life, it's hard to manage both.
Yeah.
Uh, so, with that aspect, my next question to you is, uh, the Moon Chasers is, you work on Moon Chasers with your partner.
Yeah.
So, how do you manage the personal relationship and the professional one?
Yeah, so that's where, taking when I was talking about taking a break, working with your partner has another edge to it. Maybe we'll have to do another fireside chat some other day to elaborate on that, because that is when you're traveling with your professional partner. So how what where is the balance between till when is she your partner and till when is she your professional partner? So that's a discussion in itself. But yeah, taking those breaks from work is where I will bucket that into, and say how that helps us to understand what we are trying to achieve together. Like, in terms of content creation, what is it like? Suppose we are in this village, talking to the village kids or talking to the village people, understanding their tribal artwork or something else. So we are working together in that environment. We are trying to gain that knowledge or that insight, and trying to gain that information when we are interacting. So maybe then she is at some other corner of the village, I am at some other corner of the village, because we are both two professional workers traveling and trying to get that content. But we are coming together over lunch. But then, though we have stories to tell, we are discussing them as partners, and we are just having a light lunch. So you understand that there is this gradation that you start bringing in the kind of association you have with your colleagues erstwhile, and now we are working together as partners. So yeah, so things that you have learned working with your colleagues, you can imbibe on a personal level as well, and keep it bifurcated till where is the personal limit and the professional limit. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. My co-founder in NomadGao is my wife.
Oh, congrats. Nice.
So I know.
Yeah,
You
you're aware.
Yeah, it's hard at the beginning, but
Hmm,
then you learn over time,
hmm, hmm,
to manage
hmm.
that. So, are there any more questions out here? All right. So, I
Yeah.
think we are almost out of time. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah.
but it's been a great session.
It's been great chatting with you, Mayur. I believe I'm like, let me ask you before we leave. You have a lot of insights, I believe, about running a co-working space, and so experiences that you have come across from people like us who have bumped into, and challenges that you might have faced. I mean, you can shed some light on those.
Yeah, so as I said, my whole idea about starting co-working, co-living place in Goa came from my own digital nomad journey over last 6 years. So, now that after the pandemic, or rather after the lockdown, we have started getting this first time remote workers, Indians, who are turning remote workers for the first time. They're facing their own challenges,
Mm,
and they're looking for spaces where they can connect with, uh, you know, like-minded people, or they feel the energy, because nowadays, if you look at
mm,
Indian cities are ghost towns, because
mm.
stepping out is a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah,
So, yeah, it's been a journey. I think we have 2 minutes left.
yeah.
Maybe you can have a separate session on that
Yeah,
subject.
sure. But great connecting with you. Thank you, guys, whoever's joined, and thank you, Global Travel Meet, for having me share my insights. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Travok, for arranging Global
Yes,
Travel.
thank you,
Uh,
Vandita and Travok, for arranging such an amazing event.
yeah.
Okay,
All
bye.
right.
Yeah.
Bye.